Some species went extinct, but their stories didn't end there. Lost creatures, last sightings, and unexpected twists. Let's uncover the truth. The Pyrenean Ibex was a muscular, sure-footed wild goat that roamed the rocky slopes of the Pyrenees, the mountain range between Spain and France. It had curved horns like twin scimitars and a thick coat that kept it warm in the harsh winters. For centuries, this animal thrived in the wild. Then it didn't. By the late 20th century, only a single Pyrenean Ibex remained. Her name was Celia. She lived alone in the Spanish wilderness, the last of her kind, while scientists scrambled to understand what had gone so horribly wrong. Overhunting had hammered the population for centuries, but that wasn't the only reason they disappeared. Habitat destruction and competition with livestock pushed them further into the mountains until survival became impossible. Then came one of the strangest twists in extinction history. Scientists decided to bring Celia back to life. In 2003, they attempted something that had never been done before. Using genetic material taken from Celia, they cloned a Pyrenean Ibex and implanted the embryo into a domestic goat. The process was a success. For the first time, an extinct species was resurrected. But the miracle didn't last. The newborn clone had severe lung defects and died within minutes. Just like that, the Pyrenean Ibex went extinct for a second time. Think about that for a second. We live in a time where extinction isn't necessarily forever. If science could bring back the Pyrenean Ibex, what else could return? The dodo? The Tasmanian tiger? Maybe even something bigger? In the dead of night, deep in the forest of Tasmania, there was once a predator like no other. The Thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger, was a bizarre mix of a wolf, a tiger, and something entirely alien. It had the body of a dog, stripes like a tiger, and a pouch like a kangaroo. A true relic of evolution. For thousands of years, the Thylacine ruled the wild, hunting in packs, chasing down prey with incredible stamina. But in the blink of an eye, it was gone. European settlers saw it as a threat to their livestock, so they put a bounty on its head. Hunters wiped them out one by one. Habitat destruction made things worse. And then came the disease, a silent killer that swept through the already struggling population. By the early 1900s, the wild was empty. The last known Thylacine, named Benjamin, was captured and put in a cage at the Beaumaris Zoo in Hobart. There he lived his final days, pacing back and forth behind iron bars. The last footage ever taken of him shows a lonely animal, yawning, stretching, looking out at the world that had already forgotten him. In 1936, he died. The species was officially extinct. Or was it? For decades, people have claimed to see thylacines in the wild. Blurry photos, shaky videos, and eyewitness reports all say the same thing: something is out there. Even scientists have led expeditions searching for proof, but nothing solid has ever been found. For centuries, rumors spread about a prehistoric beast lurking in the uncharted jungles. Hunters dismissed it as legend until this chilling photograph surfaced. A creature with massive tusks, jagged teeth, and a body built for survival, taken down by a lone hunter. Official records say it vanished millions of years ago, but what if it survived into the 1800s, just like the Thylacine did into the 20th? How many extinct species still walk among us, waiting to be rediscovered? For millions of years, the Pinta Island tortoise lived undisturbed on the Galapagos Islands. It was massive, slow-moving, and built for survival. But even a creature that had withstood the test of time couldn't escape human impact. The final chapter of this species centered around one tortoise, Lonesome George. He was discovered in 1971, long after the rest of his kind had disappeared. Scientists searched for a mate, hoping to save the species, but there were none left. George lived out his life alone, becoming a symbol of extinction itself. In 2012, he was found lifeless in his enclosure. With him, an entire species vanished. His body was preserved, turned into a permanent reminder of what happens when we take too much from nature. But here's a question. What if another Pinta Island tortoise was still out there, hidden in the wild? Could we ever bring them back, or are some things lost forever? For centuries, the western black rhinoceros thrived in the African savanna. It was a powerful and resilient creature, covered in thick armor-like skin, with a sharp horn that made it both feared and admired. But its strength wasn't enough to protect it from human greed. By the 20th century, the demand for rhino horns had become a death sentence. In traditional medicine, the horn was falsely believed to cure diseases, fueling a black market trade that sent poachers into a frenzy. These giants were slaughtered at a terrifying pace, their bodies left to rot while their horns were smuggled away. By the 1980s, conservationists were fighting to save the few that remained, but with each year, more rhinos vanished. Habitat loss made things worse. Grasslands where they once thrived were replaced by farmland and settlements. The species was running out of space and time. In 2006, the last confirmed western black rhino was seen in Cameroon. After years of searching, in 2011, it was officially declared extinct. Once a dominant force in the wild, now only photographs and bones remain, a permanent reminder of what reckless hunting can destroy. The Javan tiger was once a ruler of the deep rainforests of Java, a master of stealth, powerful yet rarely seen. Its smaller size compared to other tigers made it perfect for navigating the dense undergrowth. For centuries, it lived alongside humans, both feared and respected. But as Java's human population exploded, the tiger's world shrank. Forests were cleared for rice fields and plantations, leaving the Javan tiger with nowhere to hide. What was once a vast jungle turned into fragmented patches of land too small to support them. Hunting only accelerated the decline. Farmers saw them as threats to their livestock and killed them on sight. Trophy hunters viewed them as rare prizes, something to be stuffed and displayed. By the 1950s, sightings were scarce. Throughout the 1970s, desperate surveys tried to locate a surviving population, but all evidence pointed to extinction. Not a single confirmed sighting has been recorded since. Despite this, there are still occasional whispers of footprints, blurry photographs, and deep scratches on trees, hinting that somewhere, somehow, one of these tigers might still be lurking in the last untouched corners of the jungle. A creature that looked like living gold once thrived in the misty cloud forests of Costa Rica. The golden toad was small, barely the size of a child's hand, but its neon orange skin made it stand out against the damp green leaves. For millions of years, it had survived in the cool, humid mountain climate, its life cycle tied to the seasonal rains that filled the forest pools. Every year, thousands would emerge to breed in the waterlogged soil. But in the 1980s, something changed. Suddenly, fewer and fewer toads appeared. The rains came, but the toads did not. Year after year, the population crashed. Scientists rushed to understand what was happening, but the answer came too late. In 1989, only a single male was seen, sitting alone near a drying pool, waiting for a mate that would never come. After that, there was nothing. The golden toad was extinct. No one knows exactly what wiped them out. Climate change may have altered the delicate balance of moisture they depended on. A deadly fungal disease could have swept through their population unnoticed. Whatever the cause, their disappearance happened so fast that scientists had no chance to intervene. For millions of years, the Baiji River dolphin glided through the waters of China's Yangtze River. It was an ancient species, older than humanity itself, with pale bluish-gray skin and an elongated snout. Unlike ocean dolphins, the Baiji lived its entire life in fresh water, relying on its advanced sonar to navigate the murky depths. It was once a common sight, moving gracefully through the currents. But as China industrialized, the Baiji's world became a war zone. The once quiet river turned into a highway for cargo ships. Factories lined its banks, dumping waste into the water. Fishermen used nets and explosives to increase their catches, often injuring or drowning the dolphins in the process. The Baiji couldn't adapt to the new threats surrounding it. Its numbers plummeted, and by the 1990s it was barely holding on. In 2006, an expedition launched the most extensive search ever conducted. Scientists scoured the Yangtze, hoping to find a survivor, but the river was silent. No Baiji were found. The species was declared functionally extinct, meaning even if a few individuals still existed, there were too few to ever rebuild a population. Despite this, every so often fishermen report seeing a pale shape breaking the surface of the Yangtze, moving against the current. Maybe it's just a trick of the water. Or maybe against all odds, a ghost of the past still swims beneath the waves. A flash of sky blue feathers once brightened the forests of Brazil. The Spix's macaw, a bird so rare and beautiful it seemed almost unreal, was a creature of legend. For centuries it lived in the dry woodlands, its voice echoing through the canopy. But that voice slowly faded, drowned out by chainsaws and the march of civilization. The destruction of its habitat was relentless. Trees were cut down for farmland, and as the forests vanished, so did the macaws. Illegal pet traders made things worse, capturing them to sell on the black market. By the 1980s, their numbers were so low that even seeing one in the wild was an event. Then, in the year 2000, the last known wild Spix's macaw disappeared. It was gone. But unlike many lost species, this one still exists, in captivity. A handful of Spix's macaws have survived in breeding programs, carefully protected by conservationists. Efforts to reintroduce them into the wild are underway. But the question remains, can a species that was pushed out of nature ever truly return? Or will they always be ghosts of a world that no longer exists? There was a time when passenger pigeons darkened the skies of North America in numbers so vast they stretched for miles. Billions of them filled the forests, their wings beating like a rolling storm. Hunters barely had to aim. One shot could bring down dozens. No one believed they could ever disappear, but they did. Deforestation stripped away their nesting grounds, and mass hunting turned their flocks into easy targets. Passenger pigeons were slaughtered in staggering numbers, their bodies packed into barrels and shipped to markets. By the late 1800s, their endless flocks had thinned into scattered remnants. People noticed too late that the once unbreakable chain of life had snapped. The last known passenger pigeon, Martha, lived her final years in the Cincinnati Zoo. On September 1, 1914, she was found lifeless in her cage. Her death was the final punctuation on one of the fastest extinctions in history. Once the most numerous bird on the planet, now nothing remained but memories and old photographs. A species that could once block out the sun was gone forever. The Guam flying fox was a creature of mystery. A tiny bat no bigger than a human hand, it flitted through the night, feeding on fruit and nectar. Unlike its larger relatives, it lived in secrecy, rarely seen even by those who searched for it. Scientists knew little about it, except that it was disappearing. By the early 1900s, deforestation had already damaged its habitat. As trees fell, food sources dwindled, and predators like the invasive brown tree snake spread across Guam. Some believe overhunting played a role in its decline, but no one knows for certain. What is clear is that sightings became rarer and rarer. The last confirmed sighting of the Guam flying fox was in 1968, when a single individual was caught and documented. After that, it was never seen again. The species slipped away, vanishing into the night like a shadow that no one could hold on to. No bodies were ever found, no bones recovered. It was simply gone. Did it perish unseen? Or did a few survivors escape into the last untouched corners of the island, waiting for someone to find them? The Tecopa pupfish was a survivor. It had thrived in the scorching hot springs of California's Mojave Desert for thousands of years. Adapted to water so warm it would scald most creatures. It was small, barely 2 inches long, but it didn't need to be big to dominate its environment. The Tecopa pupfish lived where nothing else could until humans arrived. In the 1950s, developers began altering the natural springs, redirecting water for bathhouses and resorts. What seemed like minor changes to the landscape had devastating effects. The delicate ecosystem that had supported the Tecopa pupfish for millennia collapsed. The water flow changed, temperatures fluctuated, and other fish species invaded. By the 1970s, the once thriving population had dwindled to nothing. Scientists searched for survivors, but there were none. In 1981, the Tecopa pupfish became the first species to be officially declared extinct under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. A fish that had weathered time, climate shifts, and nature's unpredictability was wiped out by human hands in a matter of decades. Once vast herds of Bubal hartebeest roamed across North Africa. They were strong, built for endurance, with long, curved horns and a sturdy frame that allowed them to survive in harsh desert climates. For thousands of years, they were hunted, but never to extinction, until modern firearms changed the game. By the 19th century, European colonialism had spread across North Africa. The hartebeest, once abundant, became easy targets for soldiers and trophy hunters. Their numbers plummeted at an alarming rate. With every expedition, more were shot, not for food or survival, but for sport. By the early 1900s, the Bubal hartebeest was on the verge of extinction. The last known herd was wiped out in Algeria, and by the 1920s, the species was gone. No conservation efforts were made. No one even thought to preserve them. The desert that once echoed with the sounds of these majestic creatures fell silent. Today, only a few museum specimens remain, a grim reminder of a species that was erased for no reason other than human carelessness. For millions of years, the Christmas Island pipistrelle ruled the night. This tiny bat, no larger than a human thumb, flitted through the trees hunting insects with precision. It was one of the last native mammals of Christmas Island, perfectly adapted to its environment, until everything changed. Invasive species crept into the island's ecosystem. Feral cats, rats, and aggressive ants disrupted the balance, preying on the pipistrelle and stealing its food supply. Habitat loss made things worse. The bat, which had once been so common, became a rare sight. By the early 2000s, conservationists realized the danger, but it was already too late. The population collapsed so quickly that scientists were left scrambling to catch up. In 2009, researchers tracked the last remaining pipistrelle using radio signals. They listened as the bat called into the darkness, one last echo of a species on the edge. Then silence. It was never seen again. In a single night, the last of its kind vanished, and with it, an entire species was lost forever. For generations, birdwatchers, explorers, and scientists searched the dense swamps of the southeastern United States, hoping to glimpse one of the rarest birds in history, the ivory-billed woodpecker. Larger than any other woodpecker in North America, with striking black and white plumage and a bright red crest, it was once a symbol of the untouched wilderness. But logging destroyed its habitat at a terrifying pace. By the early 1900s, only scattered populations remained, clinging to the last patches of old-growth forests. Each time one was spotted, it seemed like the final sighting. Some believed it had gone extinct in the 1940s, yet rumors persisted. Blurry photos, distant calls, and unconfirmed reports kept hope alive for decades. Expeditions combed through swamps and forests, cameras ready, waiting for proof that the bird still existed, but proof never came. In 2021, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service made it official. The ivory-billed woodpecker was extinct. A bird once known as the Lord God bird for its breathtaking appearance had slipped through our fingers. Yet even now, some refuse to believe it's truly gone. High in the remote forests of Hawaii, a small brown bird once sang from the treetops, the pa'uli. It was a quiet creature, unassuming, but unlike any other bird on Earth. For thousands of years it lived undisturbed, feeding on snails and insects, thriving in its tiny niche. Then everything changed. Deforestation destroyed much of its habitat. Invasive species, especially mosquitoes carrying deadly avian malaria, decimated the population. By the time scientists discovered the pa'uli in the 1970s, only a handful remained. Conservationists launched a desperate effort to save it. They searched for mates, hoping to breed the last individuals in captivity. But there were too few left. By 2004, only 3 pa'uli remained. Scientists attempted to capture one for breeding, but it died in captivity. The last confirmed sighting was in 2018. No others have been seen since. The pa'uli was the first species of Hawaiian honeycreeper to vanish in modern times, but it won't be the last. The island's forests continue to shrink, and disease continues to spread. It was a bird that had survived for thousands of years, wiped out in the blink of an eye. The Caspian tiger was one of the largest and most powerful big cats to ever walk the earth. It roamed the forests and riverbanks of Central Asia, from Turkey to Western China, a creature of strength and solitude. With a thick coat suited for harsh winters and immense paws built for silent movement, it was a master of its domain. But not even the mightiest predator could survive what came next. By the early 20th century, the Caspian tiger was under siege. Governments saw them as pests, ordering mass extermination campaigns. Hunters gunned them down without mercy, while farmers drained the wetlands that were once its hunting grounds. Food became scarce and the tigers starved. By the 1950s, they were hanging on by a thread. Reports of sightings trickled in from remote regions, but each year the silence grew. The last confirmed Caspian tiger was seen in the 1970s, vanishing into history. Today, genetic studies reveal something incredible. This tiger wasn't entirely lost. It was closely related to the Siberian tiger, meaning a piece of it still exists. But the Caspian tiger itself, with its golden fur and massive frame, is gone forever. In the Hawaiian forests, an eerie silence replaced what was once a thriving chorus of bird calls. The alala, or Hawaiian crow, was more than just a bird. It was a guardian of the forest, spreading seeds and shaping the ecosystem. It had intelligence beyond most birds, known for using tools and recognizing human faces. But even intelligence couldn't save it. Habitat destruction, disease, and invasive predators tore through the alala population. As forests were cleared for agriculture, their world shrank. Introduced diseases from mosquitoes spread like wildfire, and invasive rats and mongooses raided their nests. One by one, they disappeared. By the 1990s, conservationists realized the urgency. They captured the last remaining birds to breed them in captivity, but in 2002, the wild population was officially gone. Today, a handful of alala remain in aviaries, carefully monitored. Scientists have tried to reintroduce them into the wild, but without a safe habitat, they struggle to survive. The forests that once echoed with their voices may never hear them again. Deep in the rainforests of West Africa, an elusive primate once swung through the trees, the Miss Waldron's red colobus monkey. Unlike most monkeys, it was quiet, preferring to move in the shadows rather than call through the treetops. For years, it was a mystery, rarely seen, barely documented. Then it simply vanished. Logging and hunting devastated its habitat. Bushmeat trade wiped out entire monkey populations, and the Miss Waldron's red colobus was hit hardest. By the late 1990s, scientists feared the worst. Expeditions searched the dense jungles of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, but no confirmed sightings came. Not a single photograph, not a single sound. By the early 2000s, it was likely gone. Still, hope lingers. Local hunters claimed they've seen them, describing their reddish fur and unusual silence. A few unverified hairs and droppings have turned up in recent years, keeping the possibility alive. Is it truly extinct? Or is it still out there, hidden in the last untouched corners of the jungle, waiting to be found? A dragonfly is not the kind of creature people expect to go extinct. They are fast, adaptable, and have existed for over 300 million years, surviving ice ages and mass extinctions. But even the most ancient survivors are no match for human destruction. The St. Helena darter was once a common sight on the remote island of St. Helena, hovering over freshwater pools, its delicate wings catching the sunlight. But in the end, it met the same fate as so many before it. The problem wasn't hunting or poaching, it was water, or rather the loss of it. As humans reshaped the island, draining wetlands and polluting what remained, the darter's world shrank. Its breeding grounds dried up, and without them, its numbers collapsed. No dramatic chase, no final captured specimen, just fewer and fewer sightings until there were none at all. Despite surveys and searches, no confirmed St. Helena darters have been seen in decades. It is likely gone forever, lost not to violence or greed, but to neglect. A dragonfly that had survived for millions of years, erased in a matter of decades. This is how extinction happens, not with a bang, but with silence. That's about it. Write in the comments which famous animal you think will become extinct next. For more useful information, watch other videos.